General Medicaid warning. The views expressed in 5-ish minute lore, the lore delivered in rants, are sanctioned by their scholar Progenium as excess rageous. Prolonged exposure can result in loss of IQ, high blood pressure, random outbursts, and blunt force trauma to the skull, resulting in unconsciousness. Please consult your local physician for more information.
First captain of the World Eaters and overall swell guy, Kharn the Betrayer. The only World Eater to earn the respect of his Primarch, primarily by getting the shit beaten out of him and not dying. Do not complain to him about it being too chilly to go outside. That's the only warning you're getting.
Kharn is a swell guy. Kharn might be a traitor, but hell, even someone like me has to respect him. Why, you ask? Kharn is just one of those guys who never found the need to ask too many questions. He learned while he was trained to be a space marine that asking too many questions only leads to irritation. You see, before Kharn was a betrayer, before Lorgar was told by Korax he was going to learn firsthand why a flock of crows is called a murder, way back when the World Eaters were the Warhounds on Terra, Kharn actually had questions. When he was recruited from Terra, he was presented with a tradition of the Warhounds called the Contest. Winner is the guy that collects 1,000 skulls. When Kharn asked where he could get the skulls, his trainer, Gunnar, laughed at him. Kharn took that personally. Kharn reduced the entirety of the remaining questions he felt he needed to ask to just 3. Should I kill it? Can I kill it? And most important one, how should I kill it? He found that just having these 3 questions simplified life amazingly, and made him somehow an incredible leader because Kharn is a swell guy. He was actually pretty calm back in the day, going through the galaxy and getting promotions. When they found Angron, Kharn asked the Emperor if he could kill it, and Big E said no. Unfortunately, Big E didn't tell Angron he couldn't massacre anyone that came to see him, and most of the World Eaters' command staff found out the hard way. Kharn finally lost patience with the stupidity and went in to tell Angron to calm the fuck down. And after he got done telling Angron to calm the fuck down, he just stood there because he'd already asked if he could kill Angron and was told he couldn't, so he didn't really know what else to do. Angron, just like with the rest of his command staff, started to beat Kharn like a redheaded stepchild, but due to Kharn literally just living through a Primarch temper tantrum, it managed to calm the Primarch down just enough to actually get shit done. After that day, he was made Angron's equerry, which is kinda cool, but also a complete curse because it meant he was there and had to deal with every single time Angron got pissed off for no real fucking reason and would have to try to calm him down. Kharn met and became bro-tier with Sigismund of the Imperial Fist because Kharn is a swell guy, and basically if you already know what's up with Sigismund, you know Kharn was the guy who taught him to wrap his weapons with chains so he'd never lose his grasp. Then several years later he met his boo bear Lotara Saren. He asked himself, should I kill it? Upon meeting her, decided on no and promptly fell in love with the most bloodthirsty creature in the galaxy. Seriously, Lotara Saren is the only creature in existence that makes Khorne stop and say, damn! Due to Lotara being completely awesome, it slowly took the edge off of Kharn. But just like a Jenga tower, Kharn's patience was beginning to crumble and fall. He was literally having to babysit Angron to make sure the Primarch didn't lose his shit and murder valuable crew members for breathing hard. He had it seemingly well in hand, even though there was some scraps with the Space Wolves, but then again, who didn't get in the fight with the Space Wolves back then? Then one day, out of the blue sky, Angron comes in, looks around and yells, "Get in the fucking Conqueror, we're betraying the Emperor!" Kharn did everything he could not to blow a mental gasket because now he had to deal with this particular brand of bullshit. He did wind up losing his mind for a bit and went down to Isstvan 3 with Angron, where he wound up somehow getting impaled on the prow of a Land Raider, with the somehow being named Garvio Loken, and wound up meaning Loken put him on it. After riding around Isstvan 3 with a spike through his chest, he kinda calmed down because Kharn is a swell guy, and then his Primarch nearly died due to Ultramarines. Kharn was about to celebrate, but then Angron just dug himself up from the rubble the Gelman's boys had buried him in, threw his axes away, and then Kharn grabbed the discarded weapon called Gorechild, told some toaster lovers to fix it because it was a wreck, and then literally forced everyone to dig up an entire war zone to find the teeth to the axe because they were shiny and special. Once he got all the teeth of the axe, Kharn felt complete, and he was a swell guy. Kharn's relief lasted all of 15 fucking minutes. Argel Tall, one of Kharn's best bros, got shanked by Erebus. When Kharn found out about it, he did what he normally did and started asking his questions to himself. Erebus, should I kill it? Yes. Can I kill it? Yes. How should I kill it?
Kick his ass, Seabass!
Erebus, upon finding himself knocked down about 12 times, decided to peace out and teleported away. This only made Kharn's temper about as short as a DMV line in an Amish town. This was only compounded when he went to see Angron and saw that he had transformed into literal Satan on steroids, and now he'd have to put up with that! If it feels like I'm skipping a lot, it's because I am. Kharn is a swell guy, and Kharn put up with a lot, and I mean a lot! Imagine if you're the only guy people respect in a legion of insane idiots driven half-mad by machinery implanted into their skulls that tells them to kill people constantly. Then imagine always having to keep all these idiots from doing something completely stupid, all the while trying to keep your 12-foot-tall, 1,000-pound rage machine of a father from doing something completely asinine. By the time Kharn got to Terra, he was well and truly done with everything going on in the World Eaters. If you want to know what the internal dialogue of Kharn after putting up with all this garbage sounded like, it sounded something like this. The second Kharn touched down on Terra, he was already knee-deep in corn and went on a murdering spree, decapitating anything in sight, and frankly, he found it wonderful not to have to ask too many questions. The should I kill it question was firmly off the board because if he only had it in one direction, everything there he could kill. Can I kill it was pretty much off the board too because there were only 4 things on the entirety of a planet full of things to kill that could kill Kharn back, and one that might be able to. The how should I kill it was off the board too. The answer was the same every time. They don't say skulls for the skull throne for nothing. Even Sigismund couldn't match with the swell guy Kharn, and the 2 former bros had a bro down. Dorn had to step in to stop Kharn from adding another skull to his growing pile. Speaking of the growing pile, during the Siege of Terra, Kharn killed 1 million people by decapitation. Then it was off to Kharn versus Sigismund in round 2, and he thought he'd make it 1,000,001. By this time, though, Sigismund was so fed up with everything that he matched Kharn's Cornate-powered rage with enough bitter fury to make Perturabo want to give Sigismund a paternity test. Kharn, who had killed 1,000,000 people, thought that Sigismund was actually more screwed up in the head than him. Amazing! Sigismund killed Kharn, and he was dragged off the field and was actually the last to be dragged onto a transport, technically making him the last traitor Astartes to set foot on Terra. 2 World Eater captains were arguing over his body, and I'm not sure why, but one took an axe to the other. World Eaters. When the blood landed on Kharn, he suddenly popped back to life, then promptly got disgusted with the lack of killing going on and went into brood mode. But he's a swell guy, so he got over it.
Oh, I'm sure he's off somewhere. God damn it! Coping.
Then, well, Scouthorax happened. The World Eaters went to the Eye of Terror, destroying everything they came across between Terra and the Eye, and when they got in the Eye, they set about looking for a homeworld. They settled on Scouthorax, and they found out the Emperor's children wanted it too because it used to be inhabited by Eldar, and Lucius and the Emperor's children just love those little soul stones. If you take into consideration Khorne and Slaanesh are about as compatible as me and a Tau, and the World Eaters view the Emperor's children in about the same fashion, it doesn't take much mental math to figure out what happened next. Open war broke out between the 2 legions over a trash planet in the middle of the Eye of Terror. But as they were fighting, the planet started reacting and started getting a lot colder. So cold that the Emperor's children were thinking a ceasefire would be a good idea, and they managed to get the World Eaters to actually agree with this. Well, who do you actually think asked Kharn about all this? No one, which is bad because Kharn is a swell guy. Kharn went from 0 to genocide instantaneously, and since everyone was bitching about it being too cold, he picked up a flamer and went to heat them up. Kharn started butchering anyone and everyone he came across, and never had he been more happy. He no longer had to ask any questions. Should I? Can I? How? Who cares? Man, kill, burn! Man, kill, burn! Man, kill, burn! Swell guy Kharn went on a rampage that was so total it shattered any cohesion left in the Emperor's children and the World Eaters. Kharn losing his shit and going on this rampage did more damage to 2 traitor legions than 9 Primarchs, 7 years of warfare, sieging a palace fortress held by Rogel Dorn, and everything else that happened in the course of the Horus Heresy, and before, combined. In the middle of this rampage, he came across Centurion Gunnar, who had taught Kharn the value of not asking too many questions. Gunnar asked him why he was doing this, and Kharn yelled, +1, right before he beheaded him. So if you're wondering how all this went down, the Battle of Scouthorax had the Emperor's children and the World Eaters versus Kharn, and Kharn won. It was because of this battle he is now known as Kharn the Betrayer, but Kharn the Ass Whipper is far more appropriate. After this display, Kharn apparently just separated the skulls Kharn was gathering and put them in their own pile, which is impressive to say the least. These days, Kharn fights for whoever wants him to fight alongside of them, but a lot of them are really hesitant, because if Kharn doesn't feel like he's being sufficiently challenged, or there isn't enough enemies to kill, he can and will kill the guy that brought him along on general principle, because the bastard should have known better than to waste Kharn's time. What a swell guy!